Hey everyone, this is Chappie over here at Intense, and for today's video we're going to be unboxing and assembling the all-new Intense DJ. Let's get started. Alright, so at this point with the box open, we're going to grab our accessory box over here at the back of the bike. We're going to grab our front wheel, we're going to set these aside, and we're going to move to pull the bike out. All right, so now that we have the bike out of the box, the first step we're going to do here in order to get our bike up into the bike stand is we're going to loosen our seat post collar here. Using a 5mm, we're going to pull the seat post out. Now it's important to note on the back of the seat post, you're going to see a minimum insertion line. So right here is as far out as we're going to be allowed to take this seat post. So for reference, that's going to be about right there. Now this will give us enough clamping space on our bike stand to clamp here. And it's important to note that you don't want to clamp anywhere else on the frame, i.e. the top tube, down tube, chainstay, you always want to mount to the seat post. All right, so now that we have the bike out of the box and in the stand, the first order of business here is to get our handlebars mounted. So we'll start here by turning the stem around. This is going to take a T25. On the back of the stem, we'll loosen these two pinch bolts. And then from there, rotate the stem around into a forward-facing position. So we know our stem is positioned properly when it's facing the same direction as the arch of our fork. So with the stem facing forward, we're going to remove the faceplate bolts here. These are also T25s. Just be sure as you pull these bolts out to keep track of the clamp because they are individual clamps for the left and right side. All right, so now that we have the faceplate off of our stem, we're going to grab our handlebars. We're going to roll them up into position. And you'll notice the extra coil of brake line, we're going to slide that over the top of the stem, bring the bars down, position our bars and center into the stem. With our bars positioned and centered into the stem, we're going to take our stem faceplate here. We'll take one side at a time. And take note of the orientation of our stem faceplate here. The profile should match the stem to the faceplate. Once you confirm that that matches, get those threads started by hand. We'll take the second faceplate, get those threads going. We don't want to tighten the bottom ones yet. The first step here is we're going to snug and torque these two top pinch bolts. And the reason for this is we want to maintain a zero gap, the stem and the stem faceplate. We want to make sure this gap is zero. All right, so this stem, all 6 bolts are rated for 5 to 7 Newton meters. So we're going to set our torque wrench to 6 Newton meters right there in the middle, and we're going to torque our faceplate, top faceplate bolts here first. With those torqued, we're going to make sure the bar is rolled the way we want it and also centered side to side. And once we're happy with that, we'll go ahead and tighten and torque the 2 lower pinch bolts of our stem. All right, so with our bars on, next up is the front wheel. So we're going to prep the fork, and then we will prep the wheel for installation. Pull our front axle out towards the drive side. We'll come up here, and we will grab our front brake pad spacer, pull that out. And then the fork is now prepped, and we'll move to the wheel. All right, so now that we have our front wheel, we're going to take our hub protector and our disc guard off. This is just packaging. Now when we do this, we want to make sure that the hub end caps still are on the hub and not on our rotor guard here. All right, with our wheel prepped, we're going to go ahead and install it into the fork. And once your rotor is aligned with your brake pads, you can go ahead and slide the wheel up. Once it's into position, take our axle, slide that back through. Do not force it, just gently align the axle as we go through and it'll slide right in. All right, so next we're going to go ahead and tighten and torque our front axle here. So with our torque wrench set to 2.5 Newton meters, we're going to torque our front axle. And then move to torque the pinch bolts of our front axle. It's always good practice to do a repeating left, right, left, right. Then we'll move over to the rotor side and do the same torque sequence. Back to outside and back to inside one more time. That way we hit the torque wrench on each bolt twice and gets a nice, even, consistent torque. All right, so now that we have the front wheel installed, the last step to get the front end buttoned up and set up is we're going to set the air pressures of our fork. On the back of the left fork leg, there's going to be a chart that will give you your body weight as well as the pressure associated, so use that as a good starting point. On the top of the left fork leg, we have our air cap. Remove that, reveal the Schrader, hook up our suspension pup here, and set to your recommended setting. Now my body weight, the recommended air pressure here is going to be about 65 PSI. So we're going to get that up to 65. All right, once we're there, we're going to pull the Schrader valve adapter off, reinstall our cap. Make sure that's snug so it doesn't fall off, and that is the last step of that. All right, so next step is we're gonna go ahead and throw on a set of our favorite pedals. Make sure there's a little bit of grease on those threads to get us started, and then yeah, let's get them in. Now the cranks on the dirt jumper call out 31 to 37 Newton meters. So we'll go ahead and tighten and torque our pedals to that. Now, depending on your pedal selection, you might be using a different size Allen, or you might be using a box wrench on the other side. Just make sure that when you pick out your pedals, you have the right tools associated with it. All right, so now that we have the bike out of the stand and on the ground, the first thing we're gonna do here is we're gonna set up our headset preload, and then we're gonna move to tighten and torque the stem. All right, so when we're taking a look at our headset preload, a general rule of thumb is anywhere between 2 and 4 Newton meters. So for this, we're gonna go with 3, right in the middle. I'm gonna start there, pull the front end up, make sure the front spins freely with just a little bit of resistance. So that feels really good there. Now, next step here is we're going to align the front wheel with our handlebars. Good place to start from is the front surface of your handlebar. Eye that up with the reveal of the front edge of our fork grounds here. Once you're happy and everything looks even and straight, go ahead and torque these back two pinch bolts to 5 to 7 Newton meters. All right, so now that the front of the bike is dialed in, the last step here is to get our seat height all dialed in. So, general rule of thumb on a dirt jumper, you kind of want the thing down and out of the way. So it's always good to start in a low position. So at the bottom edge of that taper is a good starting point, and then you can play with it from there. Once we get it lined up, we'll go ahead and torque this to 7 Newton meters. There you have it. All right, so now that the bike is almost ready to ride, the last final step here is to set up our tire pressure. So these tires are designed to be at a max PSI of 65, but generally you kind of want to start at about 45 and then play up to 65. That's a good place to start. And then lastly, the bikes do come with front and rear brakes. However, a lot of people do tend to take the front brake off. It's more of kind of what you do with the dirt jumper, but we do have the front brake on there for an option with the folks that prefer that. So there you have it. We have successfully completed the unboxing and assembling of the all-new Intense DJ. Get out there and rip up your favorite local trails, and thanks for choosing Intense.